of the budget, the half-year budget, so to speak. And I have some guests here with me. I have the Member of Parliament for 2nd D, Andrew Egyapa Mercer, here with me. Good morning to you, Andrew.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
True. It's a pleasure as always. And I have Edward Bawa, Member of Parliament for Bongo, also here. Good morning to you, Edward.
Good morning, Robert.
But let me start with you. I know that the heat has been on government the last couple of weeks, and it's understandably so. But when we have to come to the current state in which we are, it also means that we have to know that on the social side, we've loaded up the budget, so to speak, with more expenditure, free SHS and all that. That would mean that government also needs more revenue, ultimately, to be able to achieve its targets. Is that not it?
Yes, but on the contrary, I disagree with your assertion that the heat has been in government over the past week. What's the basis? This is a routine exercise that is required of the finance minister under the Public Financial Management Act to provide an update of the workings of government for the past 6 months. Our friends on the other side chose to preach doomsday and threw out all sorts of things through what they call breakfast meeting. I didn't know that today they become Full Gospel Businessmen Fellowship International, because I know that they preach good news. But our brothers chose to preach doomsday, and I think that they will be disappointed, extremely disappointed. Yes, the figures available clearly indicate that there's some shortfall in meeting the revenue targets. Because bear in mind, the target is what government itself sets for itself. That look, I'm going to try and increase revenue from 33 billion that I targeted last year to 51 billion in 2018. We haven't been able to meet the targets to date. But even with that, I know that we've done 16% better than we did last year. So yes, there are issues, and yeah, my friend can shake his head, but the finance minister will come here in the next hour or so and will provide the details for the people of Ghana, and we'll see the dooms that they've predicted, the fear and panic that they've sought to create, all the issues with increases in taxes and all that they have predicted will come. We'll see whether that will happen or not, and Ghanaians will see their true nature as confirmed by their own founder. Lies, create distortions, and invite everybody to debate it. So I'm patient. I do not know the content of what the finance minister is going to present to Parliament today. But with the little that I have heard in the background, you see the colorful shirt that I'm wearing this morning. You know I'm usually in suit. But I think that today is a good day. The Minister of Finance has good news for the people of Ghana. Yes, there are challenges. And I believe that new revenue measures, I didn't say new taxes, I said new revenue measures are going to be rolled out to try and address those revenue gaps that we are experiencing as we speak.
Perhaps you may have preempted too early, or government has also seen that it wants to score some political points, and so may not necessarily be increasing some of those mainstream taxable avenues by which it can get revenue. And we know that we've talked about VAT, etc. But the thing is that once any revenue activity does not meet its target, whether for quarterly basis or for monthly basis, it means that it's time to have a setback and do a relook. And that's the bottom line. That's what the finance minister is coming to do.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me say good morning to your listeners. I am surprised that my colleague was given the opportunity to tell us exactly what we should expect, and all he decided to do was to go after the opposition, NDC. Let's put it very clearly. We are speaking from the data that is available to us. If you look at the April report, that the Ghana Fiscal Service report, if you look in terms of quarter-on-quarter sectorial and GDP growth, you realize that we are not performing. Let's take, for example, the oil sector. If you take from the last quarter of 2017 and the first quarter of 2018, oil growth has moved from 2.1% to 1.5%. If you take that of, agric has moved from 2.9% to 0.4%. If you take the industrial, sector, it has moved from 2.3 to 0.9. The only place that we have made progress has to do with the service sector. That had moved from 0.9% to 1.3%. So if you look at these figures that are there, it tells you very clearly that in terms of not even looking at government's own target for 2018, but even looking at just government's performance as against its previous performance in 2017, things are not working very well for the government. Indeed, if you were to even to look at in terms of the revenue areas, based on even what just 2016 and what we are seeing this year, 2016, if you look in terms of their revenue performance, it was 1.1% short in terms of GDP. If you were to look at the total GDP growth of Ghana, 1.1% of that was what we underperformed in terms of revenue. And if you look at in terms of their expenditure, what they had told Ghanaians that they were going to spend, they cut it by 1.3% of GDP. So if you look at these figures that are available to us, and the fact that their own letters that they have written to IMF about the fact that based on the review they are going to do this year, they expect to rake in an additional 1 billion into the national kitty. It tells you very clearly that, there must be certain areas that are not going right. And government, the minority just decided to look at the various areas they themselves have spoken about. And look, first and foremost, they contemplated the issue of VAT. Today, they are telling us that they are not going to increase VAT. But it's important to put it on record that if you contemplate the increase of national health insurance, remember it is VAT. If you contemplate the increase of Get Fund, remember that it is VAT. So you can say that the real VAT, which we talk about, the 17.5%, you are not increasing it. But if you go and increase NHIL, whether any form you put it, if you increase Get Fund, any form you put it, remember that it's a valued added tax. And these are the things that we are talking about. So when you say we are doomsayers, and then all we're doing was to preach disaster for this country, preach doom for this, that is not the aim. We are just looking at the figures before us. But of course, in my dialect, they say that when the drummers are bringing drums to your house, you don't run to meet it. We will go there at 10 o'clock. We will see how they are going to get that 1 billion that they had promised IMF. And this was a document that was not only signed by the finance minister, but by the governor of Bank of Ghana. So these are the facts that we are making. So I don't know where my friend is getting his facts from.
At the end of the day, on the fiscal side, we need to maintain a certain balance on what the earnings are, how we hope that we can put in place the measures so that we get those revenues. But at the same time, making sure that what we have already put in place vis-a-vis, if it is a pledge to implement one district, one factory, but also help in constructing dams and even the flagship free SHS. We have to meet those targets as it were. How does government intend streamlining that in the last two halves of the year to make sure that we achieve the target as it were?
Yeah, Roland, I will deal with that, but before I go there, it's important that I correct some. Absolutely. You see, all the growth figures that he's put out there now, after the finance minister presents the budget today, okay, I will ask that you invite the two of us to come back here and then make a determination as to whether those facts that he's put out there are correct. Because you see, I don't want to preempt the finance minister, but all the growth figures that he put there are completely false. And those figures will be confirmed by the budget statement that will be put out. Okay, now, revenue targets, yes, there's a shortfall. But the presentation he makes is to suggest that it is some strange thing that has not happened in this country before. All the statistics, okay, from 2014 to date, it is only in 2015 that we actually met and exceeded our revenue targets. What a responsible government does is not to borrow recklessly to fill the gap like they did, but to cut expenditure so we can spend within our means. But he says to us that government promised to expend a certain amount and cut it, as if to say cutting the expenditure because we did not generate the revenue to fund it was some crime. It was not. It was prudent economic management that required government to, as it were, cut it within the cloth that it had. Now, IMF letters. You see, I heard Mr. Atofos, my own very good friend from Secondary, articulate this view on Adum TV a while back. Where is the letter? Where? Because I expect that, consistent with the notion that he who alleges must prove, if you make such allegation, you need to back it up with the evidence so we all can see. Because, look, I know, and this is trying to respond to the issues that you raised, that government necessarily ought to, as it were, improve the revenue to meet the expenditure items that it's intending to roll out, and all the policy initiatives that it has promised the people of Ghana, for which we have been able to deliver some of them and working to deliver the rest of them within the period of our mandate. Okay, and my expectation is that the finance minister will come and provide we, the people's representatives, the steps that it is taking to make up for the gap and to fund all these initiatives. You see, they have consistently said since their doomsday breakfast meeting announcement that they made that VAT was going to go up. Now they've shifted it to NHIL, and
perhaps they've prompted you, so you know that it will be bad because it's not as if the response has been coming from only the minority. Indeed, it's been coming from the public as well, and the public includes various demographics: those who may like government, those that necessarily may not like an MPP-led government.
Okay, it's feeding from the doomsday prophecy that they put out during their press conference or press whatever breakfast meeting. I'm saying that today we are only about an hour or so away. In fact, less than that. We are 35 minutes away from the presentation of the budget. And my friends in the NDC would be shamed. I can tell you that on authority. New revenue measures are going to be implemented. That does not mean new tax measures. Efficient ways of raising money to fund all these initiatives, including NHIL and Get Fund, are going to be introduced. And as to whether those will constitute increases in VAT or otherwise, we would see.
And the backbone of an economy would always be not only the spending aspect on social or social spending, but also massive capital infrastructure that will see. That will be the foundation by which we can have various sectors of the economy develop. I think government, based on what the literature available is, and also the predictions by think tanks, economists, is that now government needs to spend on infrastructure, on making sure that those roads that ideally perhaps may have been halted because of the austere measures that had been introduced to now be rolled out. That also means that government will need more and will be in a fix. At the end of the day, a government should restrain itself. What do you think will be the advantages or disadvantages in that?
Yeah, you see, and I'm happy you just hit the nail on the head. If you look at the current trend that we have, we spend more on consumption as compared to investments. Even to the extent that part of, you remember that we had what we call the Ghana Infrastructure and Investment Fund, which where 2.5% of the VAT is accrued into. It's supposed to be accrued to that. That has been moved from that particular fund and used in funding what do you call it, SHS. So in terms of investment in that particular angle, we are doing next to nothing. If you look at the petroleum, recently when the reports came on the petroleum funds and what we're using them for, if you look at the amount of money, not even the PIAC report, you know, by law, the finance minister needs to give us about how our petroleum funds are performing. If you look at it in terms of even education alone, just education, about 82% of the amount of money that had gone into that was used for consumption against even the law. The law, which talks about the fact that about 70% of whatever allocation that you have should be used in investments. So I annually they could take just 275 million, and that's where the 1 million one constituency can be, 275 from the capital expenditure budget, and use that we will be developing. This is mid-2017. No single constituency has gotten even a dime. So it tells you that even in terms of
perhaps you haven't assessed very well. We're told that it's used for various projects under various ministerial supervision.
Yeah, so they tell you that they want to use it for dugout, not dams. All they do is that they go to, like, for example, today is Thursday. His Excellency the President is going to be in my constituency. Apparently he's going there to look at a dam that is being constructed in my constituency, in Cabre. The truth of the matter is that go to Cabre now. What they have put there is a dugout. What the communities themselves sometimes can get a bulldozer just to do it. So if you tell us that give the money to the constituencies, give the money to the districts.
Okay, so you mean that if they're talking about dam, properly engineered dam?
And luckily enough, in my constituency, we know what a dam is because we have the Via Dam. That serves not only my constituency, but even serves the Navrongo constituency. When we talk of a dam, my constituency knows what the dam is. So when you go and put up a dugout and you label it as dam, then who are you deceiving? So when we talk about capital expenditure, it is not just wasting money. Because let me tell you, this particular dam that the supposed dam they are going to commission, by December, January, it will be dried out. Because most of these dugouts go dry when it is dry season. And the only reason why you are introducing dams is because you want to ensure that you want to intervene in the erratic nature of the rainfall patterns. So if in the dry season, because if you take the northern sector, for all the 12 months that you have, only 3 months that you get rains. So it means that the rest of the months that are there, there's no rain. And if within that particular period, the dugout that you have put there is also dry, what is the purpose of even putting it up in the first place? And that is why we think that, look, this government's focus in itself is wrong. They came into power using deception, using propaganda. When they came in 2017, look, there's a proverb that...
You think the ideas are too lofty? They are too ambitious? But in life, you have to be ambitious.
Roland, you and I know, you can use a lie to win the heart of a woman, but you need to use the truth to keep him as a wife. And so you have lied and gotten your woman, which is the power. Use the truth to serve the people properly. And they continued with the lies, and that is where we have found ourselves in.
I know you wanted to react, but I have to go back to the studio. So
it's important. It's amazing why the NDC is fixated on telling the people of Ghana that the MPP lied their way to power. When they promised in 2008 that when they come to power, they were going to implement one-term insurance premium, and over 8 years did not even attempt to implement it, were they lying to the people of Ghana? Were they? All the campaign promises that they made in 2008, 2012, are they telling us that they've achieved all of it? And that to the extent that they did not achieve all those promises that they made to the people of Ghana, they were lying. Look, it doesn't help because we are politicians. We ought to be responsible. To tag your colleague politician a liar when we have done 18 months. We have not finished our 4-year term. You have done 2 terms and did not achieve some of the promises that you made to the people of Ghana. Yet, you turn around and say that somebody lied and that the people of Ghana should kick them out and bring you back. A bigger liar who did not achieve your promises in 8 years. So it is not an issue of lying. It is an issue of presenting your programs, your vision for the people and working to achieve those programs and policies that you put out to the people. And we have done 18 months. We have a commitment with the people of Ghana for 4 years. And I can assure you that we'll do our best to do what it is that will serve the public interest. Now, look, he makes all sorts of assertions that we are spending on consumption. You see, these two-faced double standards, the NDC must stop. Because if you recall, when we came into government, when the president came to deliver the first State of the Nation address and made promises, Haruna Idrusu, the minority leader, stood on the floor of parliament and said that there was no physical space and that all the promises that we are promising, we're not going to be able to achieve them because wages and salaries, interest payments, and statutory payments constitute 97.3% of our total revenue. and that we're not going to be able to do the program we were promising. Free SHS, 1 million per. They told us. What has happened? Now, these same people turn around and tell us that we are spending on consumption, when the structure of your budget itself makes it impossible for you to spend it. In any event, who caused these interest payments accumulation? Yourselves.
Point made.
Okay.
Point made. We've had the second. The Member of Parliament for Second D, Andre Egyapa Mercer, joining us for the discussion. Remember, it's coming to you live from the foyer, making entry into the main chamber of Parliament, the first floor, I believe, of Parliament. You should be the first floor, right? Yeah. Okay, first floor of Parliament. And so please make sure that you join us. It's the live presentation of the budget. We're just bringing to you also what the chamber looks like currently. And we're hoping that from 10, we're going to have proceedings starting, and the Speaker, of course, sharing or steering proceedings as normally as he would. Please get interactive with us. Make sure that you give us more of your messages on Facebook, JoyNews on TV, and also watch us live through channel on YouTube, My Joy Online TV.